Let's talk about brand new information that I just found on the judge presiding over the Blake Lively case, Judge Lyman. I haven't seen anyone cover this, by the way. We're going to get into all of it. Did you know that Judge Lyman sits on the board of his very sketchy, apparently, family foundation, the Lyman Foundation, along with his mother and siblings, including Doug, the movie director? And if you guessed that there were major red flags with this situation, you'd be correct. This foundation appears to be exclusively family run, a major conflict risk when the judge is involved in high-profile litigation, like the Blake Lively case. Weirdly enough, the judge's wife is not part of this, by the way. I would be upset if I were her, but anyway. We have what seems to be suspicious trading behavior for sure. In 2024, the foundation sold about $480,000 worth of Regeneron stock, apparently just 3 days after acquiring it, which is a highly unusual pattern for a charity, especially one with no disclosed investment strategy. Regeneron is involved in ongoing litigation and was sued by the U.S. government. I would say there's a good chance that Lyman might have had some insider information here since he works for the government. Now, this trade could signal insider trading potentially if Judge Lyman had access to market-sensitive information, or wash trading or laundering-like activity under the guise of philanthropy. 2023, there was a net capital loss as well of about $222,000, cutting overall assets by about 25%. 2024, there was a bounce back with significant capital gain on stock with Regeneron, sold for $480,000, approximately. Booked gain of 11.8K. This dramatic swing could suggest aggressive investment behavior unusual for small family foundations, which may avoid volatile assets unless there are hidden interests or personal benefit motives. There are also highly volatile asset fluctuations here. Total assets plummeted from 1.6 million to 1.2 million in 2023 without any clear justification that I could find, then jumped back up to 1.6 million in 2024, mostly from contributions and stock sales. Now, these kinds of fluctuations are unusual for a passive charitable foundation, as this seems to be, and may suggest money cycling potentially tied to external influence or private benefit schemes. There was also apparent consistent underreporting of governance. There are no salaries, no trustee compensation, no consulting arrangements that I could find that were disclosed, despite over $30,000 or so in other professional fees each year. The foundation also lists no board meetings, advisory committees, or oversight structures that I could find. And there also seems to be potentially major private inurement risk or risk of self-dealing here. Family foundations are highly regulated under IRS Section 4941. If family members pay themselves indirectly through professional services, use the foundation to benefit entities that they control, or they direct funds to organizations involved in their own legal or political interests, that can constitute self-dealing potentially, which is prohibited and subject to penalties or revocation. In the Lyman Foundation findings, we see regular 30 to 40K in professional fees, but no disclosures of who is paid for those. And the board is entirely consisted of family, which raises the chance that those funds are quietly enriching themselves, without public accountability potentially. The judge is also overseeing cases with potentially overlapping parties, given his role in the Blake Lively lawsuit, which involves extreme potential subpoena abuse, and overseeing a high-profile defamation case with public influence implications while co-running a secretive family private foundation with no apparent independent oversight. This may very well be a direct judicial ethics problem under multiple rules. So, judicial canon violations. Canon 2, avoiding appearance of impropriety. A family-controlled foundation with things like unexplained stock trades while handling cases involving celebrity legal teams could appear corrupt. Canon 3C1 must disqualify self when impartiality is in question, especially if any grantees or associates overlap with people like Blake Lively's lawyers, donors, or publicists, for instance. Canon 4D1 can't manage investments or financial relationships that cast doubt on integrity. Short-term stock flips and opaque cash movements may qualify. Let's talk about tax irregularities and lack of oversight. Family-run foundations are legally allowed, but they do require full disclosure of compensation, conflicts, and grant activities. Lyman Foundation disclosures consistently omit certain key data. I could not find, again, mentions of trustee pay, board meeting minutes, and there was this high professional services spending that we've been talking about. This could imply intentional concealment, improper filings, or incompetence, all of which violate our IRS rules to my knowledge. Let's also talk about administrative spending versus charitable purpose. In 2023, there were about $200,000 in grants, $36,000 or so in administrative costs, including $31K in professional fees. In 2024, there was only $131,000 in grants, $32,000 in administrative costs. In both years, administrative and professional expenses are high relative to grant amounts, especially for such a lean foundation. This is a common red flag in private foundations that can be potentially used as personal tax vehicles or slush funds. There is also no compensation disclosed despite professional services. Compensation to officers/directors was listed as 0, yet accounting, legal, and other professional fees totaled about $15K or more per year, which raises the question, who is receiving these fees? If Lewis Lyman, the judge, or family-associated firms are being paid indirectly, this may violate self-dealing prohibitions under IRC 4941. Also, despite being family-run, it seems as though the related party transactions or disqualified person relationships were not disclosed in the appropriate places from what I could tell in the tax filings. This could be a potential failure to disclose conflicts of interest as appropriate, a significant issue for a judge whose impartiality could be questioned. The Palm Beach, Florida address used here, which is associated with Eisner Advisory, may also obscure where the foundation is truly controlled from, given the family's heavy New York and California presence. Doug Lyman, the judge's brother and another board member that I've mentioned, is also known, of course, to have professional relationships in the entertainment industry, which may intersect with high-profile figures involved in the cases that Judge Lyman oversees. There was also no Form 9890 Schedule B that I could find. This may be a transparency issue. So we cannot see who could have potentially donated large sums to the Lyman Foundation, from what I can tell, which this could reveal if anyone affiliated with Blake, Ryan Reynolds, or Manat, or other related parties were backing this foundation. Also, multiple grants went to the Lyman Blake Lively. This could pose a significant self-dealing appearance issue. A judge giving money to a center bearing his name. Judge Lyman was also listed as a board member of the New York Legal Assistance Group in past years. The Lyman Foundation, which is again controlled by Judge Lyman and his immediate family, gave repeated grants to NYLAG across multiple years. If Lyman oversaw any cases involving NYLAG, their attorneys, or I think it's pronounced, or staff, then this creates an appearance of bias, potentially, especially if his family's foundation was actively funding them during or after his service on the board, which I believe this did happen in 2019. Again, this is not just about bias. Again, Canon 2 of the Judicial Code of Conduct requires judges to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. If Lyman ruled on a case involving NYLAG or an organization tied to a current NYLAG staffer without disclosing his past board membership or financial relationship, that could be a violation of Canon 3C 1D of the Code of Judicial Conduct, as well as 28 U.S. Code 455, disqualification of judges. I